Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and because we just love Russell Jackman so much, NBA players. You like that, Russell?
Yes.
Anything to do with the NBA, Russell is just he's all over it. Now this is a first. We're going to welcome the Talk of the Town 97.7 and 1570 AM WHTX in Youngstown, Ohio. Thanks to the operation manager Carl Bloom for adding Sports Econ 101 and Sports Byline to your lineup. That's the first time we've ever done that. The station manager, Darren Peck, said, "Hey, Edward, make sure you do a shout out to Youngstown, Ohio." All right. When we come back, we're going to introduce our guest, Ryan Gordon of Common Enemy. Now, that sounds bad, but it's not, because it has to do with basketball and shoes, and he'll tell us all about his company. Let's see here. When we get back, also, we'll have some other stuff that we want to talk about. We'll probably get into that when we get back, because we're going to spend some time with Ryan Gordon, and he'll share with us his experience as well as what he's doing with Common Enemy, because we want to talk about why basketball and what are the next steps, any brand ambassadors, etc. And Russell, what else do you want to talk about besides when we come back talking with Ryan?
Brandon Crawford being a St. Louis Cardinal.
No, say it ain't so, Joe.
It just happened. It just happened.
Well, he's towards the end of his career anyway. So
I know, but it's sad to see one of the Bay Area greats,
well,
playing.
Look what happened. Remember
another
Madison
team.
Bumgarner, same thing, right?
Worse, because Crawford has played for us the last 6 years over when Madison already left. So I think it's even bigger.
That's a good point.
And he was from the Bay Area.
That's true. All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back introducing our guest, Ryan Gordon. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. Now I'm going to introduce our guest, Ryan Gordon of Common Enemy. Ryan, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. Okay, so tell us, what is Common Enemy? Because let me tell you what. I'll have this little intro here. I'll read this part here. It says, while the height of the pandemic is behind us, many in the United States continue to demand government policy that would better protect their future health outcomes. One company decided to use the popularity of basketball, and more specifically basketball shoes, as a way to support legislation to improve public health. Common Enemy is a performance basketball shoe brand and donates 5% of sales to establish better health outcomes through Congress. We're joined by fashion executive and lifetime activist Ryan Gordon, CEO and founder of Common Enemy. There we go. I read it correctly there.
Wow. I couldn't have written it better myself. Oh,
yeah.
Wait, maybe I did.
Oh, that's right. You did. All right. So give us a little background of you and then Common Enemy.
I got my start in the fashion industry with another startup way back in the day, a luxury dress shoe brand called Gordon Rush. And I'd say the most interesting part of my journey up until that moment post college was just always being obsessed with storytelling. And I had two older brothers that had started a company, and it was a real David versus Goliath kind of story, right? They had cold called a Nordstrom buying office and had gotten a test run, and we're going to be sitting alongside some of the largest fashion house shoe brands in history, the Ferragamos or the Bruno Maglis of the world. And they were having success, and they recruited me out of school to come and join their sales team and work alongside them. And I thought it was such an amazing story. And it was so great to go around the country meeting sales teams and buying offices from Nordstrom to Bloomingdale's to Saks Fifth Avenue and tell this kind of story of an up and coming American brand, sort of vying with all these, Italian fashion houses. I was there for 10 years and got recruited to Puma as the youngest commercial sales director there, running their wholesale division. And I wanted to, spread my wings and try new try new avenues out in this career. And Puma was really where I saw the real power of iconic product, right? And I was there just as they were kind of shifting into the basketball lane. And I started kind of tinkering around with this idea to have a dedicated performance basketball shoe, but sort of marry that with an ongoing theme in my life of being involved from an activist standpoint and looking at ways to really improve public health outcomes through public
About
policy.
what year? About what year was that?
2016.
Oh, okay, fairly recent. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, long story short, I launched Common Enemy a few years ago. I should say we started the concept and ideation process a couple of years ago, and through thousands of hours of wear testing and prototyping and shipping, shoes back and forth and all over the world and all over the country, we produced a small first production order last summer and have been just pushing ever since to bring this thing to the fore.
Why the name?
Well, we like to leave a little to the imagination, Edward.
Okay. We got to get your video back up too, by the way.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. What?
That's okay. I mean, at least we can hear you. And for radio, we need that. For YouTube, it'd be better to see your face, but at least we have you for audio here. So yeah, there you go. Now you disappeared again. Okay, so now why basketball?
Yeah. I'm sorry about the video feed. I'm seeing it fine from my
That's okay.
end. I don't know where it's going. Well, basketball is is at the epicenter of pop culture, right? It touches so many different people every day, millions of players, millions of fans, millions of enthusiasts. And we always believe that sports can be a major vehicle for change. And, basketball is the crown jewel in that regard.
I think Russ would agree with you. Right, Russ?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because that's your favorite. I know that's your favorite sport. So what are some? You have a question here for us that we're supposed to ask you. That's what are some of the current bills in Congress that Common Enemy supports?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that. I'm happy. I'm happy to ask you. It's your show, as long as you're comfortable asking it. There's two different bills that I thought were worth highlighting. Two bills that focus very much on improving millions of people's health outcomes in this country. The first is a bill specifically directed at raising the federal minimum wage. Right now, the federal minimum wage is at $7.25 an hour. It's been that way since about 2009, I believe, and kind of adjusted for inflation. It's lowest. It's at the lowest rate that it's been since the 1950s.
Well, especially with inflation the way it's been the last few years, that's for sure. And now California, I think the minimum is 15, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a congresswoman who wants to raise it to 50, which,
wow.
Yeah. And I saw some posts someone had that they recently spent $16 at McDonald's for like, a hamburger and fries and a drink. So, yeah, just wait till if she gets her way and it raises to $50. I'm guessing that there ain't going to be too many people going to McDonald's. It's going to be it'll cost you $100 to get a hamburger there.
Sure, it's interesting. As we've learned the last couple of years, for the first time, and now I was coming of age in the '80s. I was a little too young to remember what was happening with inflation rates at that time.
Yeah.
But I know very, very, after a lot of research, how aggressive interest rates were, especially around the housing prices. But that's been one real interesting reveal coming out of the pandemic is how complicated of an issue inflation actually can be, and part of it really is tied to so much of sort of like individual corporate decision making as much as government policy. But it's so funny in my neighborhood, which is kind of in Brooklyn. Known for a lot of coffee shops. I guess that's just maybe New York in general. But so interesting going in between these independent coffee shops and seeing the price differences, right? And everything is higher than it was a year ago. but it's just
Sure.
so interesting to see. There's no one person kind of setting these rates for these small businesses. So it's interesting to see it at a larger level. How uniform it can be.
Well, it's interesting. You guys are familiar with SodaStream? That you kind of
Sure.
make your own seltzer, right? And the cartridges used before inflation in the last few years used to cost $11 if you had the old one to go ahead and trade it in, and now it's like $26. It's like over 100% inflation on that. And it's kind of interesting.
Wow.
You say you come from Brooklyn, but I'm guessing you weren't born there.
No, but I am a fourth generation New Yorker, just like 40 years removed.
Okay, so you must have come from upstate, because when I came from Brooklyn, even at 2 years old, I had an accent.
No, no, I'm a weird one, man. I grew up in Tennessee. My family's
Oh,
from
okay.
my mom's family's, three generations New Yorkers. My dad's from Baltimore. He still says the saddest day of his life. The saddest day of his life was when was when the Colts left town.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, but I grew up in Tennessee, of all places. I grew up a Titans fan,
Yeah.
and we didn't have the Grizzlies yet, but
No, but that kind of was sort of tough for you guys when the Rams beat them in the Super Bowl. The only time that they got there. Well, that was a
oh
close.
my
I won't
gosh.
rub it in. That must have been tough for you. Okay, for our first basketball question here. Now known as Abdul Jabbar, what was this player's given first name? And obviously, we're talking about the main guy from the 70s and 80s. All right. That's our sports trivia question. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Now known as Abdul Jabbar, what was this player's given first name? All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman and our special guest, Ryan Gordon. Our first trivia question, now known as Abdul Jabbar, what was this player's given first name? Anyone?
Well,
Russell?
I know. Yeah. I know that most people know him as Lou Alcindor, but I think his first name, isn't it Ferdinand?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ryan raised his hand, and I bet you were going to say Lou, right?
Maybe
Yeah, and
Lewis. Yeah.
it's not a trick question, but it's a hard question. And see, I told you he's Mr. Basketball. Russell Jackman,
That's
very good.
incredible, Russ.
His given first name was Ferdinand. I bet nobody
Yeah.
yelled at him, "Hey, Ferdinand!" when he was
If
in.
they wanted to get dunked on, they did.
Yeah, exactly.
The tallest Ferdinand ever on the planet.
Yeah, I bet.
Unfortunately,
All right, so
he had a fall in December, and he's still recovering from it.
Oh,
He
I'm
had
sorry to hear that.
a
Yeah,
bad
and here, well,
fall.
gosh, he's got to be. He's what? How old is he?
75.
70 something?
He's
75.
75.
Oh,
Wow.
he's a young whippersnapper.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
got a lot of mileage on that body, though.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
he hardly ever. I still remember this, that hearing that he hardly ever got hurt because he never lifted weights. What he did was his exercise was using a heavy rope, and if you've ever jump rope with a heavy rope, yeah, I could see why that could keep you still in shape. But it's not a pounding of the muscles and all that. So anyway, we are in the Zoom studio here, so to speak, with Ryan Gordon of Common Enemy, who basically you have a specialized basketball shoe. That's really what it is. Do you have any brand ambassadors at this point? Because you're still fairly new.
Absolutely. Well, we do have a very special brand ambassador that came on board last year as we've started to build out our team. In fact, he's more than an ambassador. He's our creative director. You might remember him as one of Cam Newton's wide receivers in Super Bowl 50, Devin Funchess.
Oh yeah, Funchess. Yeah. So now, how does that? Okay, that's interesting because he's not known for his basketball skills. He probably is a good basketball player just because, and he's an athlete. And a lot of these football players are very good basketball players too. How did you get him, and how did he? Kind of curious, like to get a brand ambassador. The guy's got to love the shoes. I'd be really surprised if he just yeah, sure, I'll sign on, and goes, that they're not his favorite shoes. So how did that come about?
Well, let me give you a little bit more background on where Devin's at right now in his career because it's fascinating. So he has officially and successfully transitioned to a professional basketball career. He retired from the NFL last year, and he had his official basketball debut last fall overseas in a at a prominent tournament in the Philippines.
Really? How tall is he?
Absolutely. Devin's 6'6", I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that'd be a small forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he's an absolute world class athlete. Basketball was his first love, and he's attempting to be the first person, the first human in history to ever appear in a Super Bowl and potentially or conceivably an NBA Finals.
Yeah, almost like the Deion Sanders of baseball and football. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's right. I don't think we haven't had any basketball players do that. Now the thing is, he's playing overseas. Is he planning to come try for the NBA?
Absolutely. Yeah. He's going through the process right now. He's in training, in intense training mode right now. He has some coaches that are NBA adjacent. I should say some trainers that are NBA adjacent. So he's, it's the process is ongoing to look at international leagues, look at G League, and trying to find inroads in the NBA for sure. But,
how old is he?
29.
Okay, so he's still got a few years left on him. Yeah.
There's a couple reports that came out last year that were making their way through the media realm, and there's a lot of folks, current and former NBA players, that feel like if anyone could make the transition after training with him and playing with him, he could do it.
Well, I wonder, hey, Russell, should we introduce him to Dave Bullwinkle from the Bulls?
Yeah, he will probably know some guys that want some shoes.
Yeah. But I mean, I meant Funches.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. He's a scout for the Bulls that we've had on a couple times, and
incredible, man.
Yeah, we'll have to make the introduction. No promises, but you never know what can happen. So how did Devin? How did you guys meet so that he could become your ambassador?
That's the beauty of Brooklyn and New York City basketball. There's so much connectivity. So it was through a league, just a recreational league here in New York, that Devin's agent and a vice president at Buckwald, a prominent agency, saw one of my colleagues wearing a pair of the shoes and said, what the hell are those? Those look great. I haven't seen those before. And we got connected, and he fell in love with the shoes and the mission right away. We got a hold of Devin, and he was looking for, this is a former, Brand Jordan athlete, top of the game when he had his moment in the NFL, and he was just very intrigued by how we were trying to do business a little differently.
Yeah, I still remember that Super Bowl because I went to Lee Steinberg's party. That was the one that was held at Levi Stadium, and I was a big Cam Newton fan, and I was actually hoping that they were going to beat the Broncos, but it wasn't to be.
It would have been an incredible run. Were they 16? What 15-1, 16? I can't remember what their season was. That I
don't remember
their record was that
high.
season.
I don't remember if it was I don't remember if it was like that high. Maybe 14-3 or yeah.
Okay.
We'd have to go back and look at that. So now we got a few more minutes here. So we hear about plenty of other brands giving back. How is your model different?
Most other brands that do give back in a meaningful way, or if at all, tend to do what I say, fill in the cracks, if you will, that a lot of working families or individuals find themselves falling into sometimes when you've got gaps in a social safety net. We are more focused on filling in those gaps through kind of broader systemic change. Now, how we do that is pretty simple, right? We donate a large percentage of our sales, 5% of sales, which is unprecedented, and we donate specifically to advocacy nonprofits that are mobilizing and educating around these specific bills, like this raise the wage act that I was talking about, Medicare for All Act, which at this point has over 115 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives. They focus on these bills that, as we've seen throughout U.S. history, and once enacted, can change millions of people's lives overnight.
Yeah. Let me ask you about your specific shoe. Like, how did you, were you the designer of the shoe? What makes them different? Because there's obviously a lot of, Air Jordans, et cetera,
I'm not a designer by trade, but I did start with a few sketches. I had a really specific idea in mind for kind of what we call the silhouette of the shoe. But very early on, I was introduced to a prominent product developer in the industry, a gentleman by the name of Rob Purvey, former head of basketball for Adidas, and a legend in the industry, worked on early Kobe signature lines. And he was sort of helped kind of, what do you want to call it, transmogrify or hone and refine that initial concept into something that we see on professional athletes' feet today.
Interesting. Russell, do you want to ask any questions there?
So what players so far have started wearing your shoe, or have you had any big players right now sign up for shoes yet?
Sure. So we're still very early on in our life cycle. We are a startup. We're still fundraising right now. We brought in a very small production order out of the gate. Most of those pairs, although we have had some sales, most of those pairs are going as gifts and seeding to make sure that we can validate the product from every walk of life possible. We are in talks with a handful of NBA players right now. One of them is a former champion with the Denver Nuggets. I can't give you any more information now, but he's an incredible player, has loved wearing the shoes and training in the shoes. A couple other NBA folks we're still in talks with right now, but not ready to make an announcement. However, on the FIBA circuit, we have a handful of EuroLeague champions that have been lacing up in the shoes for over a year now. One that I just would highlight real quickly is a guy by the name of Terrell Carter, former Fresno State center, plays for Benfica, the EuroLeague champions out of Portugal, an incredible team. And he is 6'10", about 260, kind of a traditional center, back to the basket kind of center. And it's like one of these things when they're trying a new brand out. He was a friend of the brand, a friend of Rob's, a close friend of Rob's, our head of product. And we were, everyone has that moment when you get it on the first professional athlete's foot. We're like, we hope this goes okay. And it went amazing.
Exactly. All right. Hey, guys, going to get to our second trivia question here, talking basketball. Players, in 1962, Oscar Robertson was the first player in history to average a triple-double for the entire season. Which team did he play for during this remarkable feat? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward, one more time. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman and our special guest, Ryan Gordon of Common Enemy. Our second trivia question, in 1962, Oscar Robertson was the first player in history to average a triple-double for the entire season. That's quite an amazing feat. Which team did he play for during this remarkable feat? Ryan, you know the answer?
I wish Rob was here. I don't. I'm embarrassed to say.
Okay, Russell?
I was just going over his statistics with a friend of mine for the Cincinnati Royals.
Cincinnati Royals. Very good.
Wow.
Yeah, we were just going over his statistics and how amazing it was that, in a time where, the average assist was probably the average high assister was maybe 7 assists per game. He was averaging close to 10. And he set himself way above, the rest of the other players at that time. But now you have guys like Jokic. He's got like 70 triple doubles, in the last 80 games, and you have Sabonis, and you have Doncic, as well as Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. All just they've made triple doubles almost commonplace. People don't even pay any attention. And Chet Holmgren and Wembanyama are not far behind either.
Wow.
As far as guys.
It's kind of strange how the Spurs just really haven't come alive yet. But Wemby is he's really young, but you can tell he's got a lot of talent. But you know what? Before we forget, so Ryan, Common Enemy. You're the CEO of Common Enemy, which basically is a specialized basketball shoe, right? Company.
Yes, sir.
How do people get a hold of you if they're kind of interested in your shoes?
Very simple. CommonEnemy.com.
Pretty easy.
The one-stop shop for those of you who can handle Instagram without a panic attack. Instagram.com/Common Enemy Basketball, or just search Common Enemy in Instagram. But yeah, that's your one-stop shop to find out anything about the brand or get a hold of us.
I forgot to ask you, how much do the shoes cost?
They retail for $140.
Okay, which that's kind of like for a good basketball shoe is probably like right in the thick of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You'll get some signature shoes that go up a little bit and some entry level stuff at 110, 120. So yeah, we're right in the mix.
Great. All right. All right, Russell. First of all, Steve Kerr, is he worth his $35 million 2-year extension?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's only for 2 years, but I think it'll be like right in that same tail end of when Curry is probably getting ready to end it all. And geez, if we thought Crawford was bad, I wonder what will happen if guys like Clay and Steph wind up playing for another team.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I could see them retiring, but playing for another team, that seems un-American.
Well, we're seeing Crawford, who grew up in the Bay Area, playing for St. Louis. So, I really am at the point where I can never say never, and there's always a chance that no matter how iconic somebody is, they might play for another team.
How old is Crawford now?
I think he's probably 38.
38. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, Willie Mays got traded from the Giants back to to the New York team, which back then it was the Mets. Before that it was the New York Giants. That was always hard for us Bay Area people. But
Joe Montana, obviously.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right, to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. But it's still a business, and it's tough. I mean, what do you do if you're the general manager, and you feel like, I don't know how many more years left someone has in the tank, but yet another team is willing to take them for a nice price. I don't know what Crawford's package looked like. Did you know anything about that?
No, because the deal was just announced. But I was thinking about the fact that for the first time in probably over a decade, the Giants don't have a Brandon on the roster.
That's right, Brandon Belt. Yeah, what happened to Brandon Belt?
He went over to Toronto.
Boy, it's funny.
And he's probably just gonna quietly retire over there, and no one's gonna probably even notice when he finally hangs up the gloves. How long ago did he get traded? Two seasons. He didn't get traded. It was a free agent deal. He was done.
Oh, gotcha.
With the Giants, and the Giants, just like with Crawford, just said that's the end of the line. They have to get younger at those positions, especially at shortstop. You can't have somebody old at the shortstop position. It's too athletic. So, and he said he would be a backup here, but I don't think the Giants wanted to pay him. That's one thing that Farhan is if nothing else, he's cheap. So he doesn't spend money on players. And,
true.
Crawford is going to be offered something. probably more significant than anything he would have been offered in San Francisco. And
But is he going to be a starting shortstop in St.
no,
Louis?
he said he'd be a
Yeah.
backup there. So
Back up there. Okay.
So,
They usually go to first base is usually what happens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other topics that I have is that Ric Flair celebrated his 75th birthday.
Gee. Ric Flair. So I know exactly what he looks like with that flaring long hair, white hair.
Yes, fairly. I don't know. He probably has to color it quite a bit to keep it from going gray.
Yeah, I bet. 75. Wow. Think he could still put it up in the ring?
No, although he did a couple of years ago get in the ring. It was just absolutely one of the most disastrous performances I've ever seen in my life. It's like, you don't want to see Grandpa wrestle.
Yeah.
That's just, and he's close to being a great grandpa. So, let's see.
Wow.
But if you had told me that, in the 80s that Ric Flair would live to age 75, I would have bet the under on that.
Is it the wild lifestyle?
Yes, and he was the wildest of the wild lifestyle livers.
That's what I thought.
So
is it just all the partying or the drugs?
Yes, it's the partying, but it's also all the painkillers that you take.
Oh,
to get through, and the traveling. You travel as a wrestler. You get in late to your wherever you're driving to or wherever you're flying to, and then you got to take a bunch of painkillers to get yourself to sleep because you just wrestled earlier that day. You probably have some major injury that you have to get over with, and to get to sleep, you have to take a bunch of barbiturates, and then you wake up the next day and you take a few painkillers to get through the next day worth of wrestling, and the cycle repeats itself. And that's why a lot of wrestlers don't make it to age, 60, let alone 75.
I remember in the 70s, there was this guy, I'm trying to remember if it was Tommy Hudson, bowler, where basically, he would just go from tournament to tournament in his RV. And it's like, I mean, I don't know how many miles you'd have to drive from one tournament to another. But
Madden did that too with the American Cruiser, the Madden Cruiser.
Oh yeah. But the thing is, he didn't. It's one thing to be the athlete; it's another thing to be, the sportscaster, right? Because you're thinking all the travel. I mean, driving for hours and hours and hours. That's going to take something out of you.
Yeah,
you got to get there a few days early to just kind of just kick back and relax.
Yeah. Or like with the Madden Cruiser, it was a bus that had literally most people's apartments don't have as much going on as the Madden Cruiser had. He had everything but a pool in that bus.
And Ryan, feel free to jump in if you got any comments on this. Russell's he's our wrestling guy. He is a wrestling manager.
I was a former manager in indie wrestling and worked with a lot of guys that maybe you see now, but they were all before they were famous or after they were famous. That's what indie wrestling is known for.
Wow,
it sort of reminds me of who was the first guy? Was it like Mark Gastineau, the first guy who went from football into the ring?
No, he did boxing. He did boxing.
Or boxing, okay. But I know that I'm trying to remember who else, like Lyle Alzado or John Matuzak or one of those guys. They went from football to wrestling. Well, it'd probably be George Kittle.
You want to know the first one then? It's Leo Namalini. It's Leo Namalini.
Okay, what are you talking about?
Leo Namalini, the Lion. Leo the Lion Namalini was a football player and an ancient 49er, from the 40s.
40s, that's what I thought.
And then he became a coach for a little while, and then he went into the ring.
Wow.
And was a promoter for a long time too. So I think Leo Namalini is probably one of the.
That's got to be the first one. Yeah.
Yes.
Wait a minute, are you telling me Haystack Calhoun was not a football player?
No, he wasn't. But Andre the Giant was asked to be on the Redskins offensive line. And he said,
I was going to say that offensive line. Wow.
But he said that to stop wrestling and play football would be a pay cut for him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was probably the highest paid, wasn't he?
For a while he was, and
Yeah.
you like the fact that he could move around so much, play, perform in different parts of the country and different parts of the world. He felt being on a football team was too limiting for him, and too much of a regular schedule. He wanted a schedule that he himself was in control of. And
But you know what though? He weighed 500 pounds. He could have taken two linemen's jobs.
Oh yeah, no, he would have been a very interesting offensive lineman. Trying to get around Andre the Giant would have been pretty. But also, if the line had moved at all, he probably would have just stayed in one place.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, he was not known for his mobility.
No, not for his mobility.
It's not in the top 10 attributes.
Yeah, and then last night I saw a gag-inducing video of TMZ did like a half hour on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and how like they're the perfect couple, and how they can't wait for the wedding, and what perfect kids they're going to have, and if they wind up having a boy, how he'll be not only maybe the first player to ever both win a Super Bowl and perform at the Super Bowl halftime show.
I mean, if they're not talking wedding plans, are they? Or is that just they
who
do that
knows?
up?
Now that the football is over, I'm just moved off of Taylor Swift, and I hope not to hear her name anytime soon. I really hope Kansas City doesn't go to another Super Bowl.
It's so funny because I look at her. I mean, she's kind of cute, but I don't know. She's not that gorgeous, the type person.
Oh, I think she was the most beautiful lady in the world if she was going out with a 49.
Know where your allegiance stands.
Even if she went out with
filter.
Yeah, you mean even if she went out with a punter?
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
Okay. It's the fact that she's a Chiefs fan that I can't take.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. You guys ready for our last trivia question? Here we go. This armed guard followed, we're talking NBA players here. I think Russell will know this. This armed guard followed in the footsteps of his father. While his father went to UCLA, he went to the University of Arizona, and he joined the NBA in the 1989-99 season with Vancouver. In 2002, he was traded to Sacramento Kings, where he went to 3 consecutive playoff appearances. Who is this guard? I'm not going to give you the father's name yet because I think Russell will know this already. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman, our special guest, Ryan Gordon. Our third trivia question on NBA players. This armed guard followed I don't know why they call it armed. This guard followed in the footsteps of his father.
Yeah, you're making me think of John Morant at first.
Yeah. Being an armed guard, that's good.
And then I thought Gilbert Arenas for a second.
Oh, that's true. Yes, that could have been. Okay. Well, his father went to UCLA. He went to the University of Arizona and joined the NBA in the 1989-99 season with Vancouver. Back then, that was the Vancouver Grizzlies. In 2002, he was traded to the Sacramento Kings, where they went to 3 consecutive playoff appearances. Who is this guard?
Is that Mike Bibby?
Yes, and I was going to say if I said his father Henry, that would have probably given it away. Wow, Russell, 3 for 3.
Yes,
that's pretty good.
Well, I'm afraid that we're going to start going with the baseball stuff soon. So
that's true. We had a player from the 60s, Oscar Robertson. You got that. A player from the 70s/80s, Jabbar. You got that one. And then one from the 90s, 99, 2000. Not bad. I'm very impressed. Again, Ryan Gordon from Common Enemy, Specialized Basketball Shoes, we'll say. Thank you very much for joining us. You guys ready for our thoughts for the day? All right, here we go. So a guy broke into my house last night looking for money. So I got up and looked with him. And I dated a Swiss girl one time, but I broke up with her once I visited her hometown. Too many red flags. All right. Tune in next week to
my son would like that joke. My son,
you like that one?
He's a huge flag guy. So yes, he would get that joke.
All right.
That's
Audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.